Bonjour and welcome, viewers and students, to Let's Speak French, Parlons Français. These lessons on basic French are short and easy. And if you follow the program regularly, I can assure you that very soon you will be able to understand French quite easily. The previous session focused on temporal expressions. In today's class, we will learn about the different structures that are used for advising someone. This lesson has been divided into 3 sections. In the first section, I will read out a French text which features different structures of giving advice. Then, in the next section, I will explain the construction of these structures. And finally, in the third section, we will do an exercise to revise what we learned in today's session. This text consists of a dialogue between a doctor and his patient. The patient suffers from insomnia. Remède contre l'insomnie. Patiente. Docteur, j'ai du mal à dormir. Je n'arrive pas à m'endormir. Médecin. Qu'est-ce qui vous empêche de dormir? Quelques maux ou douleurs? Patiente. Non, je suis en bonne forme. Médecin. Le stress peut-être. Êtes-vous stressé? Patiente. Non, docteur, ce n'est pas le stress. Médecin. À quelle heure vous allez vous coucher? Patiente. Vers 2 heures. Médecin. Mais non, c'est trop tard. Vous devez vous coucher plus tôt. Patiente. Comme je n'arrive pas à dormir, je pense qu'au lieu de tourner et retourner dans mon lit, c'est mieux de regarder la télé ou de lire quelque chose jusqu'à ce que j'aie sommeil. Médecin. Il s'agit là d'une idée fausse. Lorsque vous allez au lit à 2 heures du matin, est-ce que vous vous endormez? Non, exactement. Si vous allez au lit plus tôt, il y a plus de chances que vous finirez par vous endormir. Ainsi, vous aurez quelques heures de sommeil. Pas convaincu? On va faire une petite expérience. Aujourd'hui, je vous conseille de vous mettre au lit à 22 heures. Tirez les rideaux pour rendre la chambre aussi sombre que possible. N'hésitez pas d'utiliser un masque de sommeil pour bloquer la moindre lumière. L'obscurité et le silence vont calmer vos nerfs et vont détendre votre corps. Patiente. À 22 heures, je prends mon dîner. Médecin. Il vous faut un estomac léger pour bien dormir. Il vaut mieux dîner à 19 heures. Je déconseille un repas copieux. Si vous avez faim, prenez un verre de lait tiède. Je vous conseille aussi une tisane de camomille. Évitez à tout prix la caféine. Patiente. Vous ne prescrivez pas des médicaments? Médecin. Mon conseil, c'est adopter de bonnes habitudes. Si vous suivez mes conseils et vous arrivez à remédier votre insomnie naturellement, les médicaments ne sont pas nécessaires. Vous ferez diligemment ce que je vous ai conseillé pendant 2 semaines. Au début, ce sera dur, mais ne vous découragez pas. Patiente. Il sera certainement difficile d'aller au lit si tôt, mais je vais essayer. Je vous remercie, docteur. Je reviendrai en 2 semaines. Médecin. Vous pouvez le faire. Bon courage. So this was a short text where we come across different structures for giving advice. In the next section, I will explain to you the construction of these structures. There are many different ways of giving advice in French. We have come across a few of these structures in our previous lessons. So we'll begin with those structures that you're already familiar with. Imperative. In the 7th chapter, we learnt about the imperative mood. This mood is used to express an order, a request, a wish, or an advice. Since today's lesson focuses on structures used for giving advice, let us consider the imperative in this particular context only. By this time, you know how to form the imperative mood and conjugate it. So, we will directly proceed to the structure construction. When giving an advice using the imperative, one must always accommodate the imperative into a sentence. Simply stating the verb is not considered an advice, but an order. For example, compare the two sentences. Bois de l'eau, drink water. Bois beaucoup d'eau pendant la journée pour rester hydraté. Drink a lot of water throughout the day to stay hydrated. Both sentences indicate drinking water, but the way the two sentences are structured changes the tone of the sentence. In the text, we have 3 instances of the imperative being used for advising. We also have one case of the imperative used in the negative form. Note how each time the verb has been used within a sentence to soften the commanding tone. Tirez les rideaux pour rendre la chambre aussi sombre que possible. Draw the curtains to make the room as dark as possible. N'hésitez pas d'utiliser un masque de sommeil pour bloquer la moindre lumière. Don't hesitate to use an eye mask to block any light. Si vous avez faim, prenez un verre de lait tiède. If you are hungry, have a glass of warm milk. Au début, ce sera dur, mais ne vous découragez pas. In the beginning, it will be difficult, but don't give up. Future tense. The future tense was covered in the 7th chapter as well. In the lesson that focused on simple future, we learned that apart from indicating an action or an event that is to happen, the future tense can also indicate a polite request or a less compelling command. The future can therefore also be used for giving advice. For example, vous irez courir 3 fois par semaine. You will go for a run thrice a week. Vous éviterez les aliments gras. You will avoid greasy food. In the text, we have one example where the simple future has been used for giving advice. Vous ferez diligemment ce que je vous ai conseillé pendant 2 semaines. For 2 weeks, you will diligently do what I have advised you. Devoir, pouvoir plus infinitive. We learnt about the verbs devoir and pouvoir in the 5th chapter. Devoir, which means must or have to, and pouvoir, which means to be able to or can, are used frequently for giving advice. Both verbs are followed by a verb in the infinitive form. Since the verbs pouvoir and devoir function like French modal verbs, it's the action of the second verb that is given as the advice. For example, vous devez manger plus de légumes. You must eat more vegetables. Here, the advice is to eat more vegetables. The verb devoir functions only as a modal verb. Vous pouvez réduire votre consommation de sel. You can reduce your salt intake. Here the advice is to reduce the salt intake. The verb pouvoir functions only as a modal verb. In the text, we have an example of these 2 cases. Vous devez vous coucher plus tôt. You must go to bed earlier. Vous pouvez le faire. You can do it. Éviter plus noun or éviter plus de plus infinitive. Éviter means to avoid. So by itself, this verb indicates an advice. Éviter can be followed by a noun or the preposition the and a verb in the infinitive form. For example, éviter les boissons alcoolisées. Avoid hard drinks. Here the verb éviter is followed by a noun. Éviter de boire les boissons alcoolisées. Avoid drinking hard drinks. And here, the verb éviter is followed by the and the verb boire in the infinitive form. The main verb that indicates the advice is boire, not éviter. In the text, we have an example of éviter being followed by a noun. Éviter à tout prix la caféine. Avoid coffee at all costs. Il faut plus noun or infinitive and il vaut plus noun or infinitive. The verbs falloir and valoir are two impersonal verbs. An impersonal verb isn't conjugated in all the 8 persons like the regular verbs. Falloir means to have to need to or must, and valoir means to be worth. Valoir is generally followed by a verb, but it's possible to give an advice using valoir plus noun, though it isn't as common. Il vaut bien se reposer. You must rest well. Il faut une alimentation plus saine. You need a healthier diet. In the first sentence, falloir is followed by a verb, while in the second sentence, a noun follows falloir. Il vaut bien se reposer. You must rest well. Il vaut mieux une alimentation plus saine. It's better to have a healthier diet. In the first sentence, valoir is followed by a verb, while in the second sentence, a noun follows valoir. We have 2 examples in the text. Il vous faut un estomac léger pour bien dormir. You need a light stomach in order to sleep well. Il vaut mieux dîner à 19h. It's better to dine at 7 p.m. Conseiller plus noun or the plus infinitive and déconseiller plus noun or the plus infinitive. The verb conseiller means to advise, while the verb déconseiller means to advise against. Both verbs can be followed by a noun or the preposition the and the verb in the infinitive form. The structure for this type of advice is very straightforward. Subject plus COE plus conseiller plus noun or the plus infinitive. For example, je vous conseille des exercices plus rigoureux. I advise you more strenuous exercises. Je te conseille d'exercer plus. I advise you to exercise more. Je vous déconseille des somnifères. I advise you against sleeping pills. Je te déconseille de fumer. I advise you against smoking. In the text, we have an example for each one of them. Aujourd'hui, je vous conseille de vous mettre au lit à 22 heures. Today, I advise you to go to bed at 10 p.m. Je vous conseille aussi une tisane de camomille. I also advise you to drink herbal tea. Je déconseille un repas copieux. I advise against a heavy meal. Mon conseil, c'est plus infinitive. And the final structure of advice is mon conseil, c'est verb in the infinitive form. In this structure, the term say is the key word. Say is a small word, but it is used for highlighting a part of the sentence. When one wishes to emphasize a word or a phrase, the word say can be placed before that term. In the structure, mon conseil, c'est plus infinitive of the verb that follows is highlighted. Hence, the speaker is emphasizing on what needs to be done or followed. For example, mon conseil c'est se mettre au lit de bonne heure. My advice, to go to bed early. Mon conseil c'est ne pas regarder la télé avant de dormir. My advice, not to watch TV before sleeping. As you may have noticed, the word say is not translated into English. Say literally means it is, and the term doesn't have the same value in English as it does in French. In the text, we have an example that uses this structure of advice. Mon conseil c'est adopter des bonnes habitudes. My advice, adopt good habits. Before we proceed to the third section, let me list out the various structures that can be used for giving advice in French. Imperative, future tense, devoir plus infinitive, pouvoir plus infinitive, éviter plus noun or éviter de plus infinitive, il faut plus noun or il faut plus infinitive, il vaut plus noun or il vaut plus infinitive, conseiller plus noun or conseiller plus de plus infinitive, déconseiller plus noun or déconseiller plus de plus infinitive, and mon conseil c'est plus infinitive. In this third section, we will revise what we learned in today's session on different structures of giving advice. A short exercise has been provided. Rewrite the advice using the structure mentioned within the brackets. Mettre un manteau avant de sortir de la maison. Il faut plus infinitive. Il faut mettre un manteau avant de sortir de la maison. This sentence translates as you must wear a coat before leaving the house. Boucler la ceinture de sécurité dans la voiture. Conseiller plus infinitive. Je vous conseille de boucler la ceinture de sécurité dans la voiture. This sentence translates as I advise you to buckle the seat belt when in the car. Ralentir la vitesse au carrefour. Mon conseil c'est plus infinitive. Mon conseil c'est ralentir la vitesse au carrefour. This sentence translates as my advice is slow down at the crossroads. Parler au portable en conduisant. Déconseiller plus infinitive. Je vous déconseille de parler au portable en conduisant. This sentence translates as I advise you against speaking on the phone while driving. Écoutez la musique sur les baladeurs et le casque lorsque vous êtes sur la rue. Évitez plus infinitive. Évitez d'écouter la musique sur les baladeurs et le casque lorsque vous êtes sur la rue. This sentence translates as avoid using headphones and earphones when on the road. With this, we come to the end of our second lesson. This lesson was divided into 3 sections. In the first section, I read out a French text which featured different structures of giving advice. In the second section, I explained the construction of these structures. And finally, in the third section, we revised today's lesson by doing an exercise. I hope you enjoyed today's session. In the next lesson, we'll learn about another type of pronouns, the relative pronouns. I hope to see you in the next session. Thank you and à bientôt. See you soon.